the interesting story about social media is we actually got a notification from YouTube saying that we are we, we have um, got a strike against the YouTube channel, believe it or not, for having our videos. We got a strike against us. However, there's ISIS, there's Muslim terrorists on YouTube, and they're not getting they're not getting blasted by these kind of attacks. They're not. They're letting these people go wild. What this is a moral. This is a moral issue that we want to bring up. What's your reaction towards this? Go ahead.
You mean the fact that their videos are not being censored and ours are?
Yeah, right.
Well, honestly, Mark, what can you say about it?
Well,
we all know it's being done. There's nothing that any of us can really do about it. You know, those stations are owned and they have the right to put on there what they want or what they don't want. And right now there's a narrative out there that is basically against the people. I mean, we're back we might as well be back in, World War II, where we've got yellow journalism and all that other stuff going on. You know, everything is propaganda now and everything is meant to advance the state. And that's how I see it.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting that, like I said, what we do is we have guests like you, and we get strike against. But we're saying our criteria, our message, and now we're getting strike against us because of as YouTube and Facebook and Twitter are all owned by the double control media. Double control media is what we call it here. And and we're going against. We're basically paddling upstream right now. They're fighting against the current right now, but this is what we gotta do. We gotta keep fighting and we gotta get to our destination. We really do. Otherwise, we're not going to succeed at all. We're not going to excel at all whatsoever. We're going to fail as a country.
Well, when you say fighting, Mark, that's an interesting concept because, you can mean that figuratively, you can mean that literally. Let's be honest. If it were 200 years ago, our founders would be shooting by now, but that's not going on. The reality of the situation is everybody is basically hypnotized and sedated. They have their TV, they have their sports ball, whatever, they have their internet, and nobody really, they'll do radio shows and they'll go online and they'll be keyboard warriors and they'll say, hey, this is wrong, and hey, this is wrong, and hey, that's wrong. And at the end of the day, they pay their taxes like good little slaves. So you want to know what? Look at what England did and comes with this Brexit. I didn't think they had it in them. I am so proud of them. But you want to know what? We're the ones who are the wimps now. We're the ones who, that we're letting everyone run over our rights. We're supposed to be the beacon of freedom for the world, and now we're a laughing stock.
And it's something, isn't it? It's something. This is why the British has ruled out the European Union. The European Union, they got rid of it. They totally. It took them 200 years, but they finally got the power back to the British people, and that's what we need to do in this country.
Right. But here's the other thing, Mark. Do you realize some of the crippling rules and regulations that they are now out of now that this transition is occurring? There were types of rules such as, you couldn't go to a farmer for eggs. I was reading about the shape of bananas. Bananas had to be a particular shape. Cucumbers had to be a particular shape. Everything had to be measured in metrics. They couldn't measure in pounds. The regulations that the EU and England put up with for years and years, they were ridiculous. They were crippling. They were over bureaucratic. They didn't help the little guy, like I said, the farmers and things like that, because of the levels of regulation.
Right, that's exactly right, and that's what we need to do in this country. Because right now, with the EPA, we can't even. We want to have the Keystone Pipeline, but now we're not even going to have that now. And Donald Trump said we're not going to build the Keystone Pipeline, and now he's got back from Scotland, and he's down the polls. The Fox News polls, Clearwire Politics, Wall Street Journal, CNN, ABC, Gallup polls, or they all have Trumpy down 7, 5, or 10 points right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, let me ask you this. How do you feel about Trump? I mean, you know that I'm a libertarian. I have no intention of voting for Trump. You know, what I see going on in the election right now is just horrifying that people are being given a choice between Hillary and Trump. And, of course, Gary Johnson. But, you know, nobody is doing their due diligence and their research to realize that there are other viable candidates out there.
I believe Ted Cruz because I want a faithful person in the White House is what we want. We need to get back to Dale Christian values. We need to get back to finding Christ again. And the only one that's really out there to actually doing and saying what we're saying on this network, and this is why we got, this is why we're getting check X's against YouTube now, because this content that we're putting out there is they're threatening us to actually pull our YouTube page down. Our YouTube page they're threatening us to do that because we got two strikes against us already. Third one, they're going to shut everything down. They're going to block everything. So I mean, this is a kind of nonsense that's out there. People need to be aware of. They need to see what is happening, and we need to get back to the godly principles of the founding fathers, what made this country the greatest nation on God's green earth, and we're not doing that. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, let's go back to what you said about Ted Cruz. Realistically speaking, he is completely out of the race. He has no chance of becoming president, okay? So you can sit here all day long and lament the fact that Ted Cruz is not the nominee, but the thing that you have to start doing now is figure out a solution. So what are you going to do about it, okay? If you don't think Trump is acceptable, you know, Ted is no longer a nominee, what is your next step? I know what my next step is. Like I said, I switched parties. I'm libertarian now. I'm voting for Gary Johnson. I'm promoting Gary Johnson because Gary Johnson stands for liberty. You know, he's a fiscal conservative, socially libertarians. We really don't care what you do because it is between you and God. What position am I in to judge another man or to tell another man what he can or cannot put in his body or how he should live his life, so long as he is not stepping on my toes in his path? I'm not walking someone else's path. They're walking their own path with God or whomever they want to call their higher power. You know what I mean? And this is a big part of the problem with government, because a man is putting himself over another man and saying, I know better for you than you know better for yourself. And this is what causes all the corruption. Because what are the type of people who seek power? The type of people who seek power are the people that are going to abuse it to begin with. These are people that have narcissistic personalities, people who want a lot of attention, people like Donald Trump. And I'm sorry, Ted Cruz too, and Marco Rubio. Look at these candidates. They are all about themselves. I cannot say that there is anybody on that stage right now, with the exception of Gary Johnson, who is really doing this for the betterment of their country and not for their own ego.
Like I said, I'm not here to do any attacks at all. I'm not here to do that. You know, I just want to get your response and tell us why, you know, what your beliefs are and what you believe in, and let you speak what you want to talk about, because you're a passionate person. You really are. I know we do respect that. However, I did want to let you know that there is a challenge convention, and Ted Cruz has refused to release his delegates, and Marco Rubio has endorsed Ted Cruz, and so it's going to be a challenge convention. So, with that being said, we're going to see how it plays out, and we're going to see where it goes from here. That's all we're going to do. I'm not going to say, oh, Ted Cruz is going to have it, or I'm not saying that. I'm not here to say, oh, Gary Johnson is going to be the next president. No, I'm not here to say that. You know, it's what.
Okay, but let me ask you a different question. Let me present it a different way. We have right around 93 million people in the United States. Is that right?
193 million people. Yeah, something like that. 190, almost 200 million people. Okay, just think about that. 200 million.
Out of 100 million people who live in this country. You're telling me that the two best people that are being put up to lead this country are Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I mean, don't you see? I mean, to me, the system is
Evilness.
rigged, and that's how I see it. Let's even go back 4 years ago, okay? As you know, I live in Key West, so I don't live in a vacuum. I talk to people from all over the world.